Hello, everyone, and welcome to Talking Business with me, Danny Pardo. I'm going to keep this introduction short and sweet because the information that you're about to hear from Kris is way more important than anything that I could put into a 30-second intro. So, let's discuss the career journey and the life experiences and the employability insights that Kris has got. Here we go. Let's talk business with Kris. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talking Business with me, Danny Pardo. We are talking to Kris today. Hello, Kris. How are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thanks. How are you, Dana?
I am very well. I'm really excited to do this. And I know that sounds cheesy and people are thinking, oh, he's faking it, but I'm not, I tell you, because me and you, Kris, oh my gosh, we're talking 25, 30 years worth of being aware of each other's presence.
Can't believe it.
before I know. And before we kind of started recording this, we spoke about the year 1996. So we went to school together, right?
That's it, yeah, back in those days, 92, 96 on the Bristol Road. Yeah,
That's it.
back in the day.
And yeah, and I also think, now correct me if I'm wrong, were you at the Birmingham College of Food, Tourism and Creative Studies as well?
Oh my gosh, yes, I was.
Yes.
I did, what did I do? I did a GNVQ. I don't even think you can do those anymore.
No.
GNVQ in leisure and tourism.
Yes. Now, I did that as well. And I remember being in a Spanish class with you. I remember being on like the top floor because they shoved languages up there. And I was just trying to think the other day, and obviously there's a lot to try and remember here. So I think I don't know if we were in different classes or paths crossed.
We were, because I don't remember. I don't remember at secondary school. I think we were, because we were we were top set. And but at college, I don't. Oh gosh, I mean, going back,
I think we were. Yeah.
It was good time. They were good times. They were good times.
They were. But we definitely went to school together. So, and we're going to pick apart that today because I've become really interested in how I've been in like the same room, the same job, the same classroom in our case. And then we go off on our own little journeys. You know, I did the little chat with Dean, and you said you had a look at that and how strange that was and interesting to watch. So I thought, we'd do another one. And thank you, Kris, for volunteering to chat. That's really right. Appreciate it, because we've been in the same classroom, same teacher, same school, same topic, same exam hall, and then our paths go different ways. And this is what I'm quite interested in. I'm sure our listeners and viewers would be as well. So, all right. So in 1996, 1998, okay, we're studying the same thing. Where do you go from there? Because I went on my route and ended up as a teacher. Where did you go, 96, 98 kind of area?
Part of the second year of the course was work experience placement. And I had a contact who worked for American Express, who they did not banking, it was business travel. So it was to do with the travel industry. And I asked if I could go and do my 2-week work placement at American Express, which was based in Dale End, up by the law courts in Dale End. And I went and loved it, absolutely loved it. Although I was, gosh, what were we then? 17, 18. I was like, yeah, this is kind of the environment I wanted to go to, because it was organising travel. They did conferences, they did first class travel, they did hotels, we did rail, we did everything to do with travel. And I'd found that during my course, one of the parts of it was one of the options, I think, was like travel agency services or something like that. And I remember thinking, yeah, and I always had a major interest in languages when I was at school, and geography, and that was sort of one of the things I wanted to do. So I did my work experience, and they asked me, this was in the May, June, so the course hadn't finished. They asked me if I wanted a job, and I was like, right, this is a decision here. This is one of those fork in the road moments. Do I stay and do my course and finish the course, or do I take this opportunity to start doing something that I think I'm going to be really enjoying, and go with that? And I took that one, and I took the job. So I didn't finish the course. I got the qualifications modules like we did, but I didn't get full qualification. And hindsight is great. I mean, I don't know what I don't do anything to do with GNVQ leisure and tourism now at all. So
neither do I.
I'm like, was that a good point? But at the time it was, and I was 17, 18, and I was earning a full-time wage doing something I really enjoyed. I had the independence of travelling into Birmingham every day and all that sort of, you know, the lunch, going out for lunch with people, and we might pop the pub. I was like, what? People don't do that.
What is this world? Yeah.
I was like, you know, we don't do things like that. So loved that. And then so stayed there for 2 years. So we used to do all I was part of the fulfillment team. So we used to do all the tickets and getting all the invoicing and account queries and all that sort of stuff. So it was, you know, it was a really good basis and a grounding for what I actually did a few years later, because that part of the office where I worked then got centralized to India. So I lost my job, really. Fortunately, at the time, there was a recruitment drive for travel agents. So I went to a travel recruitment drive at, I started to work for Thomas Cook, who are now, unfortunately, no longer with us. But I worked on New Street in their big travel agency on New Street in town, and worked on their flight centre. So we used to get people coming from all over the world wanting to book flights. And that was great. I mean, those were the days, because I was a little bit older. I was 19, 20, and I was like, yeah, you know, the only thing was I'd had to go back working weekends. But, you know, it's one of those things.
That's so interesting that you did that route as well, because so if you're 19, so we're talking about like 99, 2000, that kind of era here. And a few years after, when I graduated, after stints in various places, I did some work at a business travel agency as well on New Street. I worked for Carlson Wagonley Travel, down the road from you. So that's really interesting to hear our paths kind of, we're not too far away actually at the moment. You know, I might have been dealing with your office on a daily basis when it all comes down to it. And again, you just said that it was outsourced to India, and that was a big trend at the time, because a lot of the work that we had, our call centers were outsourced to India as well. And I could see my job disappearing, which also led me to a career change. So funny how, you know, our paths started, went away, came back, started, went away, and these similarities in the industry affecting both of us without us even realising. So, where'd you go then? Carry on.
So I was there for 2 years, and then I thought, well, I got to 21, and I thought I've got to do something. I've got to do something like radical, because I was like, it's 21, I've got to do it. So I decided to become a holiday rep, because I'd worked in Thomas Cook, and I thought, well, I'll go and get a job as a holiday rep. So I applied to work for, it was Thompson Chewer, and did the training. And as I usually do, I put 100% into everything I did. Went on the training course. They told us on the training course, you'd get Europe first year, you'd get Europe, you'd get New York, you'd get, you know, Balearic Islands, mainland Spain, Greece. Where did I spend my first time abroad, away from home, at 21? The Caribbean. I went to the Dominican Republic. So I was like 21, never lived away from home, never done washing, never lived. I think everyone thinks you've lived, but when you're 21, not really. I'm still living at home. Did all the training, was living in a hotel. I had to use my languages, because we had people who got married. So I had to translate marriage ceremonies from Spanish into English.
Oh my word.
So fortunately, I'd kept up my Spanish.
Good job.
I can always remember one couple that came, and I had to be the best man, the witness, the translator, and the video man, all at the same time, for this couple that had just come and got married. I was like, oh, okay.
I thought you were just a rep. You just said you were just a rep. Now you're doing all these things.
Well, when you're never just a rep. When you're a holiday person, you're never just anything.
I could imagine.
You have to be everything. A bit like being a teacher, you have to be everything rather than just a teacher. So I did that, and I came back because it was too far, and I was extremely homesick. And I'd watched every episode, because in the Dominican you get American TV. I'd watched every episode of ER and the Golden Girls. I don't think there was anything else I could have watched, and I'd had enough. And Friends, I think, at the time. So I came back
for the first time round. None of this rerun, repeat business. You know, for the first time. You know, when all these things were aired, not really to show both our ages, but.
No, there was no like Gold or whatever it's called, or whatever they're called. No Netflix and everything like that. This was like satellite TV, like American satellite TV. I was like, wow. I'm coming from a house with 4 channels, so that was like blowing my mind anyway, that I could have more than a choice. Came back and never had a job. But fortunately, within a couple of months, my old manager, who was now an area manager for co-op travel, who where I live in Northfield, and he said, come and work for me. So I went back to work in a travel agency. So I did that for a little bit in Northfield co-op travel.
And there's a lesson there, isn't there? Don't burn your bridges. Okay. Keep your contacts, because you never know when you're going to need them.
And I think if you've done a good job at wherever you've worked, and you know, you keep that contact and you get recognised for doing whatever it is that you did well, if you phone that person or speak to that person, they go, just leave it with me. There might be something or whatever. That's how I kind of fell into that, really, because I was like, oh, Phil, you know, and he was like, yeah, that's fine. Come and do this and whatever. And I was like, thanks, because, you know, having worked a full-time job and then gone abroad, and that, so I'd been used to earning money, and now I'd obviously come back and had virtually nothing. I was like, okay, maybe not. So I came back. Then I left there and went to work back in business travel. So American Express, in their infinite wisdom, decided that the outsourcing didn't work, so they brought it back.
Quite a few companies realise that.
Oh, well, yeah, strangely enough. So my old manager contacted me and asked me if I would be interested in coming back, but not doing that job, doing a consultancy level. So actually speaking to people on the phone and doing more, because I'd had more experience of dealing with people and So I went from doing the admin fulfillment side of it to actually being a consultant. And that was great. I'm back doing it. It was in office. It was 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. There was no weekends. The money was good. And I stayed there for another couple of years. So we're talking mid-20s now, I suppose, 20, 25, 26.
Okay.
I'm still doing what I was doing before. And then hit a mini crisis in my life and thought, I need to go and do something really creative. I'd always been really creative. I wanted to do things that were creative. And I thought, I've got to go do something really creative. So believe it or not, this is a true story. Now, you can believe this or not, I have no evidence or no proof of this. However, I decided that I would go and live in the Canary Islands, in Gran Canaria, and decided to become a drag queen. So I worked in the Canary Islands for a little bit to get it out of the system. I was like, I just need to get it out of the system. So I did that for 4 or 5 months. That was enough. I'd had enough. Came back and worked for another business travel agency called, my gosh, well, it was Flight Centre, but it was a different part of Flight Centre. So they're on the high street. This was the business travel side of it. Doing the same thing. Absolutely hated it. The company were horrible to work for.
Wow.
Hated it. Absolutely.
So even though it was a pretty similar job, then by the sounds of it, to what you'd actually done, you know, you've been on this journey now. We're in like 2006, 7, that kind of era, and you've had a lot of experience. Even though the job is similar, because of the business you were working for, you're thinking, oh, hold on a minute, maybe this isn't.
Well, yeah, and I think the industry had changed because it was around that time. Do you remember that time when the volcano erupted in Iceland? And
yes, for stopping all the flights and whatnot.
Oh my gosh! Well, you can imagine working in a like that kind of consultancy. It's like everything, and everybody was like, dead, and I was like, I can't do this. And people were horrible on the phone. Like, I'd never experienced that kind of level of venom from people. And I was like, I can't do this. I used to dread getting up in the morning. I used to make excuses for not going to work, and I'd never done that. I'd always been really sort of positive and getting on with it, and I was like, I just can't do it. I just cannot do it.
And those were tough times for the industry in general, weren't they? You know, I remember I graduated the day before 9/11 happened, which you know, took away the tourism industry as we knew it. And obviously there's a lot more serious things than my job towards that. But on that personal level where I'm looking at it here, you know, we had 9/11, you've got the natural disasters like you're talking about, you've got the financial crisis, you've got the internet coming and taking over, which was why essentially my job was going because of automation and things. So that decade there where we're both trying to get our careers sorted and started was it's changing so much. You know, no wonder we couldn't set up to it.
And I think you've hit that, and I've never really thought about that, the obviously technology side of it that was ever changing and developing, you know, in the 90s. I mean, you know, we went to school, the late 90s, 80s, when we went to school, there was nothing. I mean, like, obviously there was computers, but there was no like social media. It was really sort of trying.
We had one computer room, if I remember correctly. We had one computer room up in the corner.
Well, I think we had two, because there was one opposite the library, which was Max. You remember?
Yes, we had a Mac room. All the
We had a
Mac
Mac room,
suites.
and then we had the big room in the other building. And I can remember thinking, oh my gosh. And you think, from where that was to what it was when we were like, I'm talking 2000s-ish, like late 2000s. I mean, it's changed so much, even the technology we use, and it was mad. And I thought you could see where it was going, and I could see that this was going to be these kind of jobs and this kind of role within the travel thing and bookings and all that sort of stuff was going to go online. I could just see it, and I thought, okay, I'm going to have to think about something else here. So this was like, I'm getting towards 2009, 2010 now, and I'm thinking, well, I was 30. And I'm thinking, oh, this isn't a career. This isn't a career. I don't want to do this as a career. The progression of it was really slow. I didn't want to be a team leader. I didn't want to be an office manager. I didn't want to do that because it just wasn't me. I wasn't that type of person. I was a team. I am a team person, and I'm very much about the whole team and getting everybody there. But this was not what I wanted. So I thought, what do I do? A complete change. I thought if I don't do it, I don't do it, I don't know, you can change your career anytime. But I thought if I get to 30 and I haven't found something that I really enjoy, I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to do it. And so I made a big change at 30. I thought, okay, I'm going to retrain. I'm going to get another qualification. I'm going to retrain. And my sister, who's 4 years younger than me, is a teacher, had qualified, and was working in a primary school local. And she said, well, we have, there's an adult education company that use school, that are based at school, who do retraining, and they do MVQs. I don't even know if MVQs are still a thing anymore.
They are.
So I went and I inquired, and they were lovely. And it was actually the lady that did it. Now, this is going to be full circle. The lady that did the courses, there was a company called Crackerjack who were based in Harborne, and the lady that ran it was the mum of a boy that I went to primary school with.
Oh my gosh.
Called Margaret. And I was like, and she looked at me and I looked at her and I went, are you Thingy's mum? She went, are you something? I was like, yeah. And she went, right, okay, here we go. So anyway, that was really nice. So we had that sort of moment. And I went around the school, and my sister was there, and I loved it. Absolutely. Thought, yeah, I could do this. After that, you know what it's like when you get to secondary school, especially, you go, I'm never setting foot in a school again. That's the last thing I want to do. Particularly, I was like,
that's how I left school. Yeah. And I quite enjoyed school, and I still thought, I don't want to come back and teach. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know what some of the children were like, what we were like to our teachers, and I was thinking, no, there's no way I'm going to be like that.
I'm not teaching my little versions of me. No way, stay out.
And I was quite nice, but some of the other kids were horrible. I was like, so I thought, well, I'll do it. And so anyway, I did an NVQ in children in young people's workforce, as it was called then. Right. And because I'd never worked with kids, I had to do a level 2 and a level 3. So that was 2 years, but it was on the job. So we used to do 2 days in school and a day teaching, learning, sort of on the job learning. Fortunately, the school were really lovely, and I got a job part-time at the school as well. So I was doing admin role in the school. I was a reprographics assistant, which basically means I knew how to work the photocopier.
Hold on, let me stop you there, because that is how I started my career in education as well. But I couldn't get onto the training course, so I had to go do experience. So I did 6 months as reprographics, admin assistant, receptionist, classroom assistant, IT support, because I knew how to turn computers off and on. So again, like, how are we having this same kind of career path? I'm flabbergasted.
Yeah.
So you're doing this in a primary school then, is that right?
Yes, yeah. Cool. So this was, so I started in in the year 6, and it was great, and it just sort of fell upon me really as a sort of thing that I actually found I was good at and be enjoyed. And that was, like, for me, the main thing. It was like at 30, I really wanted to find something that I enjoyed doing. And did it and qualified. And then I was fortunate enough that they actually had some positions, and I applied, and I got a full-time teaching assistant job at the school when I was 32, which was great, because I was back earning full-time money, and I was doing something that I'd found that I really enjoyed and loved, and I could see the positive impact it was having on myself and obviously other people, and that was a big thing. And I think nowadays, from a mental health point of thing, I think I think the message I would say to anybody is it's never too late to make that change. You've got to do what's right for you, and nobody will tell you that it's this, that, or the other. You know, when we were at college, when we were 96, when we were leaving school, one of the things that was used to happen a lot was apprenticeships, and I think that really worked for some children, especially if they weren't necessarily academic as well. But they wanted to get into things like, because at school you don't do things like mechanics and physical things like plumbing or gardening or and that's why doing the GMVQ, where you had people at college who did baking and food and they did cooking and hairdressing and things like that. I was like, that was a really sort of creative environment, and that was never really one of those. And I know it's changed now, I know it has, but I think at the time it's like, no, you don't want to become a mechanic. Like, well, no, I don't, but somebody might, those skills.
I agree with you completely there. I mean, I do a lot of pushing on apprenticeships. It's still not on that same level of, it's always goes university. And then if you don't feel like it, you could maybe think about an apprenticeship. And I think that kind of attitude towards it is just terrible, really, because every student I know of mine who's gone on to do an apprenticeship has absolutely loved it. And can't speak highly enough of it. They've gone into all different fields. And when I speak to them now and they say, oh, I want to be, what was someone the other day? Chartered surveyor or quantitative surveyor. And it just blew my mind. I'm like, well, then go do an apprenticeship. Don't go sit in a classroom for 3 years at university. So he's going down that route to do that. So, yeah, you're right. The ability to do that is just, needs to be more.
And it's never too late to make that change. I think, I mean, I know everyone says, by I used to say by a certain age that you have to do a certain thing by a certain age. You should settle down at 35 and got that career. I think that was a big thing. Even then, I mean, obviously before us in like 80s, I think that was a big thing. Even in the 90s when we were at school, it was the career. You had to have that sort of path. And if you wanted to be a lawyer or a vet or anything like that, you had that career path. But apart from that, it was like, okay, so what do you do? I can remember going to the careers advisor at Colmers and saying to the lady, she said, there was always that question, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it was always that question. And you're like, who knows what they want to be when they grow up? She wanted to give me 3 options. What are you good at? What are your good subjects? And I was like, this, that, and the other. She went, come on, have a think. What do you think? I said, and this is another legitimate story. I can remember saying to the lady, I'd like to be a vicar because they only work 1 day a week. and that was a legitimate career choice. And I was thinking, that's probably not what she wants to hear, but she never asked me again. So, I mean, that's probably right.
Maybe it did work in a strange way around about that then. But I mean, you're right. Career advice is so tricky, and sometimes there is still this thing of you will decide what you want to do for the rest of your life. And from an education, unfortunately, I've seen that sometimes from year 9, choose your options based on what you want to do. Like, well, I'm 14. I just want to go and like hang out with my mates, and then 16, you get to college. Okay, what do you want to do when you leave college? Well, can I do a day or 2 here first? And I think of all the people I've spoke to, probably only about 2 out of the 20 or so interviews I've done now have actually said, this is my passion and I've followed it through. And that's great. If you do that and you hit it when you're 16, 17, amazing. I'm so happy for you that you took that journey. But on the most part, it is like yourself, where I want to do leisure and tourism. Hold on a minute, I work in a primary school, and I really enjoy it. So that journey.
It's weird, and I mean, and I've had other jobs that have sort of lasted not for very long. Like I worked for a bank for a bit. That really wasn't for me. I'd worked when I left school, I worked in a supermarket, and I was like, this was all right because it was talking. Like I can talk. I'll talk to anybody. I'm really not bothered. So I sat on the checkout and I talked, and it was absolutely fine. But and I think working in education, as no 2 days are the same, and especially when you're dealing with younger children. Oh my gosh, some of the nuggets they come out with, it just makes you a day. And like, I've never had that feeling before. And when I started, and my first week in a primary school, this is another true story. I perform amateur, so we were doing a show, and I had a spray tan, dyed my hair black, and had extensions, right, because I was doing a show. So I was like an Oompa Loompa. I was like funny coloured because it was street. And the kids were like, are you okay? Are you all right? Do you know what you're doing? And I was like, yeah, it's all right. I'm in the show, and they were like, oh right, and that broke the ice then, and that was like they would just ask me questions about it, and you know, we do things because I'm using your skills. I'm using you. I mean, you know, you're so much more technological than I am, so you obviously use those. I'm much more the drama, the music, the art. So I've been used a lot over the years in schools. I've put on performances with kids, you know, and Christmas shows and the staff panto and the summer fair and all those things that sort of happen because somebody, you know, wants to do it. And that's really sort of helped, I think, as well, because I've been able to be creative in that way in a job. And parents especially and other adults go, can't do that.
And being able to be creative, you know, I mean, but there's a lot of talk at the moment. One of my colleagues at the moment has done a master's on it, and he's looking to study further in terms of how creativity helps your mental health and your well-being. And you know, I think you're proving that. I know I do some creative things every now and again. You know, if you've had a look at some of the other videos on the channel and dressing up at college, like, oh no, what's Danny doing today? You know,
yeah, oh no, love it.
But yeah, just I'll keep doing more of it until they tell me not to. So, I mean, how does creativity help your mental health? And you know, if you can tie it into your job, even better. But doing it, you know, on a personal level as well. How has that helped your kind of mental health to stabilize or improve or go from there?
I think it's just a break from the norm, and it's finding that thing that helps you keep regulated, to working with people that you doing it with people that you don't see all the time. That's a big thing for me. So like we meet once a week and we sing and we dance and we have a laugh, and that's you know, that really helps me to stay centered, because although we don't work, you know, people who do it, we've got nurses, we've got doctors, we've got whoever, but we come there and that's just this one common sort of thing that we have, is that we like to get up on stage and do it. And there's a lot of teachers do it, you know, I'm not going to lie, a lot of teachers, they always say, what's that old saying? They say, actors are just teachers in denial or something like that. I'm not thinking, well, yeah, because actually you stand in the front of the class and you speak to 30 children every day, and you know, you put on this character and it's like, you know, it's part of it. And but I think, you know, I'm not gonna tell people lies. I mean, everybody's up and down, and especially at the minute, everybody's up and down with their mental health. And I think it's a day-to-day struggle, and I think it's a day-to-day thing, and not being able to be creative in the way that we used to be. I can't go to rehearsals. I can't meet with other people, people in bands, especially that kind of thing. We've done Zoom meetings, we've done Zoom rehearsals, we've done this and that and other. I found other ways of doing it. I ran a quiz for 12 months on my website, on my page. And I always do 2 quizzes a week on a Tuesday and a Thursday. And I had like 50 people watching, and I make a PowerPoint, and I do a music round, and I do quizzes, and that sort of helped me, sort of focused me on something else rather than the actual singing and dancing part of it. So that helps. You know, I developed a love for doing things like, I know I'm old, but I did jigsaws.
Nothing wrong with jigsaws. I help my daughter do them all the time, you know.
Oh, yeah, but that's a bit different, isn't it? You know, 12 pieces is a slightly different.
Well, yeah, 16 sometimes. So
well, yeah, you know, but Paw Patrol pictures are hard to put together. I mean, I try to do one of these. They're really tricky.
Yeah, well, we've got one that's got Marshall on one side and Chase on the other. And well, I don't know which one this one.
Well, she got one out with Sky the other day, and I was like, what? Who? And then, you know, I was like, whoa, she liked the pink one. I was like, okay, we'll do that one with the edge first. Get the edge piece.
I've got to get the edge.
I've got to get the corners. And I think it's really, I think doing anything that breaks that cycle, even if it's going for a walk. And you see it at school, and people who work in school, I mean, I can only speak for those people, but anybody that works in school the last year has found it so difficult, so tricky, so draining. And then people go, well, you haven't been in school. Well, no, I've been in school, like we were doing, like back in the day, I was doing a day every 2 weeks, and then it went to a week on, week off. And then we came back and we were full time for the first like a term. Then we were off at January and we remote teach. And then we did key worker bubbles with 15 kids. But when the week we weren't at school, we had to do the remote learning and Zoom meetings with the kids. So it was like, it was just, because nobody knew, nobody used this technology before to do these kind of things before. And it was like, what, but, you know, just like, wow. And I think everyone thought it was just going to be easy and it was going to be, but I think no teachers have really struggled mentally.
Yeah, it has been quite a mental struggle here. I mean, like you said earlier, you could talk for hours, and good grief, I could, about the struggles I've had and the things that we've had to kind of go through in our house. Obviously having obviously having my daughter, our daughter. There we go. I got the words in
the child.
Obviously, the child. Yeah, obviously having our daughter, and having to homeschool her and still provide education for 16 to 19-year-olds. Your brain's switching all over the place, and the uncertainty as well, and the fact that you can ground yourself. People can think what they like, but the fact that you grounded yourself in providing these quizzes, having a laugh yourself, giving other people something to smile about, is just fantastic, and if that's what you did to ground yourself and be creative, then what's wrong with that? Absolutely nothing.
And I think, and it's like it's tailored to you, it's tailored to the person, so it's whatever works for you. So I think one of the things I felt difficult was being a very sociable person and not having that physical contact and that seeing somebody. So I found that like really hard, and like my other half doesn't live in Birmingham, lives in Leicestershire, and not seeing that person, family, a loved one, wherever it is, for that amount of time, and it's still not great. I mean, it's hopefully, fingers crossed, it's getting there, but it's still not great. And I think, I used to sit here and you overthink and you plot and you think it all the time, and your brain goes into overdrive and you're thinking, what about this and then that, and I'm like, just need to calm down a little bit, and you just need to take that step back. But if a day you don't want to get out of bed because that's I've done that. I've laid in bed all day and watched series on Netflix. But it's what works.
Not Friends, ER, or Golden Girls reruns though.
No new things now. No, I've moved on from the Golden. Although I probably could watch Golden Girls again. No, I've moved on from the Golden Girl.
It's been a while, yeah. So, I mean, that's what a fascinating journey. So you're still in a primary school now? You're still kind of doing all that fun stuff and enjoying it by the sounds of it? I mean, if you're still there, I mean, how long have you been there now? What we at, 8 years worth, maybe?
No, I've done tech. Well, I've moved schools a couple of times. But so this is what we would 20. So this is my 11th, 12th year now, because I was 30 when I started my training. So, so probably full-time 8 years, probably 9 years now, and always been in a primary school. So, like I say, I don't think I could probably work in a secondary school. I'm not sure, but
that's fine. I couldn't work in a primary school either. We did 2 weeks training back, 2005, and yes, it solidified my idea that I do not have the skills for that area of education. I'll say it like that, but you love it, and it's giving you everything you need from a job, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is, and the people you work for, I mean, I'm sure you're the same. The people that work in education generally are just, we're a bit mad, and I think actually that helps, and finding that group of people who you can just go in and be, up until 8:30, we just talk about random stuff, and then when the door shuts at 3:30 and the kids go, we're still there. The kids amaze me. They think we live at school. Our kids think we live at school. So when they say that at 3:30, they think that we stay there all night and we're doing everything through the night, and they love it. They think, okay. So one year I saw one of my children at the airport who were going on holiday, and they just pointed at me and just went,
he's left.
I'm allowed to leave. Ben, it's okay, it's fine, I'm all right, I'm allowed to leave the building. But and the friendships you make, I mean, the friendships and stuff that you make through working in a school are just mad, amazing. So still
fantastic. Well, what a journey you've been on, oh my word. So, again, 1996, we're in the same classroom. We go in all these different routes, business, travel. You said banking. I did banking for a bit as well. I did about 3 or 4 months of that myself. So, and now we're both in education, both still in the West Midlands area by the sounds of it as well. So the career journey has been really fascinating. And the mental health side as well. Thanks for talking about that. And also as well, if it's all right with you, let's talk about being gay as well. Has that hindered your career or anything? I mean, we have, for everybody listening and watching, we have the Equality Act of 2010, which says we cannot discriminate against anybody in the workplace based on protected characteristics, and sexual orientation is one of those. So has that held you back, or has people held you back? Have you had any issues with that in, say, the last, 20 years or so?
I wouldn't say I've had any issue. I mean, I'm I think I've been really fortunate actually, because I know obviously people, depending on their backgrounds and where they live, especially, and the areas they live, I've never experienced any negativity towards myself, which I think has been really positive. And I think working in certain sectors or wherever I've worked, I've always been very open with things like working in the travel industry is very sort of open with people of any kind of sexual orientation or whatever. It doesn't matter. You're a person. It doesn't matter. And working in a school, I was a bit cautious when I went to work in a school, because I was thinking, this could open up awkward questions from children, and how do you answer those children's questions? And even some parents, it could be, they could take, I don't want my child being taught by that person for this reason. And fortunately, that's never happened to me. And I know it has happened to other people, and I know it's happened to people who, I'm very fortunate with that. And I think back, I mean, we're not talking that long ago, but we're talking, 20 years ago, it was still a bit sort of taboo. People didn't really want to talk about it, or didn't really want to openly admit it and be comfortable with it, I think. And I'm so grateful that that's changed. And I think younger people, younger people that you deal with today are very much, they're open-minded. Okay, they might not, they might not fully understand it, and they might not, but they appreciate that in this world, this global world we live in, that everyone's different, and you're not hurting anybody, you're not causing anybody any, you're not making anybody's life miserable or anything. In fact, I'm trying to make other people's lives better by entertaining people and educating people. And I think, well, that's not for my benefit. I can tell the time. Can that child tell the time?
You know your alphabet and all that kind of stuff.
I know how to read a book. So I'm not trying to detract from the fact that some people do find it hard. And I think just being true to you and just having the courage and just know there's people there that have been in your position.
And there are a lot of positive stories. I mean, the positive stories never seem to hit the media, but certainly the mainstream media, but if you're on your social medias and things, so I speak to a lot of people on Twitter from all kinds of industries, and a lot of the stories are very positive about the education, the discussions that we're having, the acceptance of people's differences, and it doesn't seem to be a major negative thing. Unfortunately, though, the mainstream media won't report a lot of stuff like that, but the negative stuff is what sells the advertising space and the newspapers, isn't it? So, but it's great to hear that you've had those experiences. And that in turn kind of links in with your creativity a bit. I mean, you mentioned you were a drag queen for 6 months. I imagine that was a rather creative time of your life. Would that be fair to say?
Well, I mean, it was something that I had to get out of my system and just do, but it was just fantastic. Being I assumed the name of Beverly when I was in drag, Beverly BB, and it was great because expressing yourself. And now I think about it now, I'm a lot. I mean, I love RuPaul and I watch Drag Race all the time, and I know obviously a lot of younger people love it, and I'm thinking, wow, and wow, because we've got UK Drag Race, we've got American Drag Race, we've got all everywhere, that kind of art, because that's all it is. It's just a way of expressing yourself. It's art. It's not necessary. It's nothing to do with sexual orientation or whatever. It's nothing like that. It's just about being creative and assuming something. And if you think about it, it's been there for years. I mean, we had it for years. Les Dawson used to do it. Libby Savage did it. We've had it for years. Camp. We've had all that for years. And actually, me finding my sort of little place to do it was great. And I still dress up now because we still do shows. I still perform twice a year on the stage in Birmingham City Centre at the Crescent Theatre, get up on stage and we perform. And I've done shows like Legally Blonde, and we're doing The Wedding Singer, and musicals mainly. But that creative side of it has just been. And I never thought of it as creative, and I just thought it's part of me and what I enjoy.
You're just doing your thing,
and I just enjoy it. And like the last year, not being able to do it, it's been really not.
And that's that's interesting. It's not like a conscious decision, like I must be creative today to fix my mental health. It's more like I really feel like doing that, And I feel like making people laugh and smile, or making myself laugh and smile, and keeping myself entertained, which is why I do some of my things. The students sit there with their heads in their hands, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm enjoying it. It's but 3 or 4 of you might be getting it, but, you'll remember it.
Different things to different people, isn't it? I mean, I sat down in the beginning of lockdown and thought, I need to, there's something I've always wanted to do. And I did it, and I've written the first chapter of a children's book because I always wanted to write something, and I'd never really had the chance to sit down and do it. So I got a laptop from school, and I thought, I'm just going to write it, and it kind of like poured out. Like once I'd started and I'd tapped into it, and I'd thought, oh, okay, and I'd written, a chapter of a story. I mean, I might not ever finish it. I'm not, and nobody will ever read it. But for me, that was great, really. That was a mental. I was like, I've done it. That was fantastic. I loved doing that. So, my next thing is to try and lose weight and to try and do a 5K. But pipe dreams.
Well, you never know. I'm sure, if I'd said 20 years ago, one day you're going to write the first chapter of a children's book, you would have gone, okay, yeah, sure, nice to see you. Or various other words.
That doesn't involve getting outside and running, Danny. I can do things that are involved.
That is very true. That is very true. Yes,
I've never been a physical person.
Yeah, if you take my bike away from me, that's it. I did try running for a bit, and it's not for me. I blame my knees. So I've always got that kind of thing when people say, why do you run? Let's do a cage to 5K. Is that the thing? A couple of colleagues do it. They swear by it. Some of my colleagues swear by it. I go, knees, I have to cycle, I'm afraid, and I can do 5K on a bike, no problem.
And I can swim 5K. I'll go and swim 5K. That's not a problem. I love swimming. I'll do that, but no.
Not running. No. We'll keep our eyes out for you when you're puffing and panting around the streets of Birmingham. I told you I'd do it.
Yeah, quick walking. They might walk.
Quick walking.
Yeah,
awesome. Still counts, doesn't it? 5K quick walking. Yeah, why not?
I can see them people walking, and they walk like with the wiggle.
Exactly. Yeah. It's an Olympic sport, so let's not. Let's say walking. Do it. So,
aren't we all doing it now around the supermarket anyway? Speed walking now anyway, because I think so. Time in the supermarket. In, out, go.
That's it. Yeah. And we've got apparatus to pull and weightlifting with the bags of sugar and stuff. So
down. Marvelous. All done, sorted.
We're doing our thing. I mean, what an awesome journey, then, you've been on, and how fascinating, you've done those things, and your personal life and your work life, and the importance of creativity and mental health, and all those really fascinating things. 2 quick questions for you. One about life in a primary school, and then one a bit more kind of personal as we look at our things here. So, life in a primary school. A couple of students have asked me that they want to be primary school teachers. Is there a life in a primary school kind of textbook that when you get into primary teaching, this is what it's going to be like? Or, like you said earlier, no 2 days are the same, be prepared for change, and let's have some fun? I mean, what's the kind of feel from it if somebody who's done it for, say, 10 years?
I think it's difficult because obviously you've got things you have to teach, and you've got national curriculums to follow, and you have to obviously follow these. And they're, I'm not going to lie, it's pressurized and it's punchy, and you only spend 2 weeks on this, that, and the other, and you have. So I'm in Key Stage 1, so we are top of Key Stage 1, so we're year 2. So that's where I'm based, and Key Stage year 2 was always a SAT year, so it was always testing what they'd learned in the first part of their school journey already. So we were. I don't want to say we were teaching to test, but there were certain things that we had to cover.
This is education.
And you have to, you take a step back, and how can you incorporate that into your daily routines? And, more every day set out. So, you do an hour's English, an hour's maths, you do phonics, then you have guided reading, and then you have an afternoon session of either science or geography or history or RE or topic or whatever your PE. And it's, your timetable is set, and I'm not going to lie, that is just the way it is, unfortunately.
No, that is teaching.
And that's the day-to-day life in a primary school. And you are living your life by the clock. The bell goes, the door opens, they come in, they sit down, we finish this lesson at 10, we do the next lesson at 1:30, then it's playtime at 1:45. And it is very structured because it has to be. And schools have always been like that. It's when you get the other things that come in that, that change your day. I mean, obviously in the last year, no 2 days have been the same anyway, but you get the child who's, who's not had a good experience at home last night, and you have to deal with that. Or you get the children who don't necessarily get how to tell the time, and you have to adapt your lesson and be flexible with that, and then go back to doing some different things. Using concrete materials, so we get the plastic money out, because we're doing money and we haven't used the plastic money. We don't know what a 50p piece looks like. So, things that change all the time. Like, we do a lot of teaching literacy through books. So we do a lot of reading is really important, as it is for everybody anyway. But teaching children to read and find their own voice is really sort of important. So we do a lot of drama when it comes to like the actual embedding of the book. So we did the book called The Day the Crayons Quit, which is a children's book, and the kids loved it. And it was all about how the crayons were mistreated by Duncan, and you have to to find out a solution to the problem. So we have a day where we all dressed up as a colour, and it was great.
Yeah. I've seen pictures of that on Twitter. I've seen that.
Oh. And I was Peach Crown, because Peach Crown was nude because he'd had his wrapper taken off. Oh. So I had to pretend I was got no clothes on. I had to make me a new wrapper. So doing creative things through that allows you to grow as a person and find things that work. And I think I've worked with a lot of NQTs over the time I've been doing it. I've spent a year with an NQT in a year 5 classroom, for example, and having the experience and the creativity that she probably didn't have, and sharing those kind of things. Have you thought about trying this? We'll try this, and if it doesn't work, we'll try this. And a teaching's still very much like that. And finding, you get teachers who have taught 30 years and they teach the same thing their way, and that's that works for them. That's fine. But I think still being young enough, in inverted commas, young enough to actually think, well, okay, last time when we taught this, it didn't work. So what can we do this time so you are always constantly changing little things and reacting to, things, and things change. Parent comments come in and you think, oh, okay, we'll do that. And so it's not the children that change, but the children can change and like new children come in, and you accept the dynamic in the classroom. And we've got, like last year, we had in a class of 25, we had 18 boys and like the rest were girls. So there was a massive imbalance of boys to girls, and the dynamic was completely different, because you're like, okay, so we're not going to do this particular book because it was not a girls' focus, but the boys weren't interested. So we do a lot more things to do with boys. So we might look at Star Wars more, and link maths into Star Wars because the boys were more interested in that, or we'd link it to superheroes because the boys really like that, and the girls were quite interested in the superheroes as well. But we do a lot of that, or we do Lego. But this year it's more balanced, so we can do more of the slightly different things with the creative stuff, and we're going to be looking at puppets and levers and dials, and we're going to be trying to make a pop-up book and things like that. And it's so they are structured, but over the grand scheme of things, you can have that sort of flexibility, I think, anyway. So, which I mean,
teaching. Obviously, I haven't worked in a primary school since 2005, and that was just for 2 weeks because I had to. In all honesty, I think my niche is definitely where I currently am with 16 to 19-year-olds. And so, just to check, then, as a teacher here, you work 9 till 3. You get tons of holidays. Don't have to take any work home, and everything's all peachy keen. You get paid really well, and by about 3:30, you're at home, cup of tea, feet up. Is that teaching life?
Yeah, no, I mean, that happens in every primary school across the whole of not only Birmingham, but the whole of the country and the world as a whole, I would imagine.
Yes, of course.
No, I mean, it's not. I mean, we know that. I mean, I generally get to school 7:45, generally, and set up, and then throughout the day. And, we've all been there. You eat your lunch at the desk. You eat your lunch sitting into the classroom. You don't have a playground because you're on playground duty. And then you ask, somebody goes, you could just stand in my door while I go to the toilet. Like, it's literally just that. And then at the end of the day, some days you've got a set of 30 books, and you'll have English, maths, phonics, and a topic. So that's 36, that's 120 books there to get through. To mark, to check for things like that they should be doing. And I'm not talking about, big things, capital letters and full stops. Well, that's a given you should be using now. So if you don't do that, you have to pink it. And so there's you have to think about marking each book anyway. So you're there till What it depends, half five, half five, depending on when you get kicked out, depending on when your head teacher says you've done enough, that's enough, go.
Yeah, we have our security doing laps of a building. I'm kind of locking up in half an hour. You might want to get out of here. So, yeah, we get that.
Well, yeah, but, you have, I mean, and our school, and I think education in general is really keen on a minute on not work-life balance. And I know it's not the only career or the only job where it's, finding that balance is really hard. And I know a lot, especially we've had a lot of ladies at school who've had babies and have come back off maternity, and they're like, and they only work 3 days or whatever. But it's like, you say you work 3 days, but actually, you're still planning and all that sort of like. And they're like, this balance thing is really hard because how can you plan? Like, how can you balance that? How can you do? We're not a 9 to 5 job. We don't switch your computer off and go out.
No. And again, with teaching as well, if I think you're probably like me, but every now and again you'll get an idea pop into your head at 8:30 at night, or you'll be doing something on a Saturday morning and go, oh, this will be really good. I'm just going to do half hour of this, and it's that kind of vocation, but it is hard to kind of switch off, isn't it? And then we can go back and circle back to the old creativity and the mental health and do what works for you and find what works for you. And sometimes it takes time, doesn't it? You were saying 32, and I've kind of reinvigorated my career around about 30 as well. So yeah, sometimes it takes time to find your thing, and that's okay.
And I think a lot of people, and especially now, I think a lot of people are thinking, I don't want to work in education as well. And I think a lot of people are trying to find something else that they could do. And they've got to which is a real shame, because, you've done your teaching and you've done your NQT year, and they are tough. NQT years are tough, and the pressures that come with it is a lot, to get to this particular standard. And then you've got to find a job, and they don't want an NQT, they want somebody with experience, but you haven't, because and I think finding that sort of niche is really hard. And I think a lot of people are leaving education for that particular reason, for the mental health and for the work-life balance. And they go, well, I'll do anything else, literally anything else, And I know some teachers who've left and they've gone into social care because they prefer that side of it, like the nurturing side of it, rather than the actual boom, boom, boom. And I think in years to come, that side of it is going to be, we're going to have more. We have learning mentors that come in, and they do a lot of work with children. And they do things like restorative justice, talking about, all of the issues that they come out with that they don't know what they're talking about. Like, we get children using racist language all the time, but they don't know what any of the things mean, and I think
just copying,
well, they've just heard it they've heard it at home, and I think they've just used it. And I do think that mental health and learning mentors and all that sort of side of it will be a lot more prevalent in years to come. And I think a lot of people will go into that side of it, because teaching's not teaching at the minute. I think it's survival, especially primary.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, there's been so much change and flux, and relying on information from other sources, exam boards, governments. My students always say, so what's going on with this? As if I've got some kind of secret special teacher information. And I have to say, look, I'm finding out things literally at the same time as you. I put the news on, and that is when me and you are finding out these things. And again, the mental pressures of that, but then you've got to go into work the next day and make sense of that. I'm trying to make sense of it for 16 to 19-year-olds who are making these decisions. And do I spend £27,000 at university, or do I go to employment? It's a big ask, isn't it? Of us human beings, it's a big ask. So.
It's a big ask, and it's different pressures at different stages of being not only a young person, but then obviously being an adult as well. Those pressures that you said earlier, that we said, year 9, what do you want to pick for your GCSEs? And like, you don't think about it at the time, because you're like, I can remember having an argument with my mum and dad going, because I wanted to do music and drama. No, you can't do that. You've got to do business studies, because you have to do business studies GCSE. And I was like, but I'd rather do another language or another art. No, you'll never get a job with that. And that pressure then, and then you pressure yourself with your GCSEs, and then whatever you do after that. And it is, and it's about, like you say, dealing with it and finding whatever that middle ground, the balance between that, and then pleasing everybody else, but also pleasing yourself.
And it's okay if it takes time. If it takes time to decide, That's fine. You do not need to know when you are 18 what you will be doing when you are 60, you know, or whenever the retirement age is set to by then, maybe.
Don't, let's not go there.
Whatever it'll be. So, all right, let's do one last question for you here. Thank you so much for everything you've done so far. And I think you've probably alluded to the answer to this question anyway, but I do want to ask you, because it's important to get this advice for students. So if you could go back to when you were, say, 17, 18, the same age as students that I teach and that are listening and watching, if you could go back to then and give yourself some advice that you wish you'd listened to, or you wish somebody had told you and you'd gone, oh yeah, I wish I'd listened to that, what would that advice be?
Gosh, you sound like RuPaul, because RuPaul does this in Drag Race. He always says,
oh really?
Tell the 5-year-old Kris now something about that. You know, what would you like? What your advice would be? And I'm like,
well, RuPaul stole that from me. Okay, look, I've got timestamps on all these videos. Okay, I've been asking people it for years, so
I'm sure RuPaul
get on Twitter later.
Okay, get on RuPaul. I'm telling you. I think it is. You've got to answer to yourself. You're the only person that you answer to, and I think with career-wise and with job-wise, you've got to do for you. And there will be decisions, and at the time, and it's always that thing that you look back and you go, I made that decision at that time because that was the best decision I could make for me at that time. And you know, we all say it, adults say it all the time, and I sound like my own mum. Hindsight's a great thing, and it is. You know, you'll look back and you'll go, I should have done that. I mean, I'll look back now and go, I probably should have done A-levels because I was more academic, so I probably should have done A-levels. I shouldn't have done a GMVQ. But then I think to myself, well, I wouldn't have had the business travel opportunities. I wouldn't have had the travel. I wouldn't have done that. So I think follow what you want to do, follow what your instincts tell you, and make that informed, educated decision based on the information that you have. Don't rely on other people going, yeah, everyone's got an opinion. Everyone's got advice. Everybody can tell you their own views and thoughts on whatever it is, whether it comes to buying a coat in a supermarket or whether it comes to buying a car or whatever it is. Everyone's got an opinion because, you know, that's life, that's politics, that's whatever, you know. But I think with careers, I think it's just, if you do it and you make that choice and you do it and you go, you know what, 6 months later, it takes a bigger person to go, you know what, I made that mistake. I chose that and now I don't want to do that. You know, I thought I wanted to go into graphic design. Turns out I don't really want to do that. I just really don't want to do that. It's not for me. And I think going, I'm going to do this, takes a really big step, and it is a really big thing to go, I made a mistake. I made that choice. I own that choice, but I'm going to have to change that. I'm the only person that can change that. And other people might not like it. You know, your parents might not like it. True. Why are you giving up a good job for? You know, you've got a job, but I'm not happy. It's not working for me. So I think having courage in your own convictions would be probably one of the biggest pieces of advice that I would give myself at 16. Also, never buy fake Dr. Martens because they're really fake. That's another big piece of advice. I remember being at school.
I'm deciding now which one of those two quotes do I put on the wall? Do I put the courage in your convictions, or do I go with the fake Dr. Martens?
Well, yeah. I mean, kids don't wear Dr. Martens anymore, so it's fine. They all wear, I don't know what they wear anymore. When we were at school, Dr. Martens were the thing. We had to have Dr. Martens.
I don't think there's many pairs where I work. I'll be honest with you.
No, it's not a thing anymore. Like DMs were like, but I think you just have to, be you. Yeah. Just be you. Just awesome. Be you and be honest with yourselves.
Brilliant. Well, listen, thank you so much for that advice there. And the whole advice in the last, we have 53 minutes on my day.
I know.
So, well, you did say that you can talk. And,
I did,
like you said, you are a man of your word. You are. Well, but thank you so much. And it's been really, really great to catch up with you. Stay on the line after we say a quick cheerio here. We'll have a quick catch up. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to talk business and careers and advice with us here today. Really appreciate it. And cheers, Kris. Thanks again. See you again. Bye-bye.
See you Dan. Bye.
A big thank you to Kris for being so honest and truthful and enlightening in the career journey, and the similarities and differences he's had to mine is really quite fascinating. So a big thank you to Kris, and I hope that you find his information and his advice well worth taking on board. I know that you will. So that's it. Thank you for watching or listening to another episode of Talking Business with me, Danny Pardo. You can say hello on the usual social media channels. You can rate, review, share, subscribe and like this podcast and the video, and all that is much appreciated. And we'll see you again on another episode of Talking Business with Danny Pardo. Cheerio!